Hello everyone, it's Natasha from Treasure Books. Today we are taking the concept of a masterboard, but instead of having just the one piece of paper, we are making it in book form like this. How fun! So a masterboard is a mixed media pattern paper that you create yourself, and pretty much you can glue anything on there. You can do a little bit of sewing, you can do stamping, inking. I've glued things down, I've sewn around, I've used tea bags over here, postage stamps over here. And the idea is that you create this large masterboard and then you go ahead and you cut it up into pieces that you use for ATCs, cards, journal pages, tags, embellishments, all sorts of things. Using this for demonstration purposes, you would cut it up like this into pieces and you'll have all of these different looking sections that you can use in your projects. So that's what a masterboard is. In today's video, I'm using that concept and I'm creating a book or an art journal. And for my base, I'm using a catalogue. So essentially we are turning this into this, or boring into fun. So the difference between a masterboard and this type of thing is that we create it in a very similar way, but we don't cut into this. We instead use it as an art journal or as base for all sorts of different things and art projects that we want to do, and a glue book or junk journal, art journal, whatever you want to call it. A fun place to play, I guess. And we're starting off with quite flimsy paper, and it's going to turn into very strong, very thick, durable cardstock. And I made this journal about 7-8 years ago, and you know, it's still very strong, not falling apart. I made this one just the other night. Very, very thick cardstock pages, and it started off as a catalogue, like it was just flimsy paper. So there are some rules, I guess, that you have to follow to make sure that your journal is strong and sturdy and doesn't fall apart. Because after all, most of these catalogues are only held in with 2 staples, and you know, they're very, very flimsy. And the first thing I've got happening over here is just all different types of little bits of paper and some random, you know, all different types of paper that I want to use in this project. I've also got my glue mixture over here. It's just white glue or PVA glue mixed with a little bit of water so it's nice and runny. First thing that I want to talk about is the number of pages in your catalogue. This catalogue has exactly the same number of pages as this one here, and that's 16. And when I say 16, I mean I'm counting one leaf as a page. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, okay? And I probably wouldn't go more than 16, especially if you're planning to add very dimensional embellishments. And this journal is not finished and it's gonna grow a lot more. I think 16 pages is quite good. And then anything less as well is also acceptable, I guess. This one has 10. So I guess the first thing would be removing some pages if it's a very thick catalogue, and you know, I would start to remove pages from the very middle. And I might even, I mean, you know, I might want to have only 4 pages in here. I can do whatever I want, right? There's no rules. Okay, next thing that we want to ensure is that we want these sections here, the folds, completely covered. So none of this, right? You don't want to glue a little bit of paper there to the edge and then glue another little bit of paper there to the edge, because then what happens, you have these really thick pages and nothing in here to reinforce. I'm just going to go to any page in my journal and I'm going to begin. You might want to start with large pieces, which is what I'm going to do over here. This is a very long process, I have to admit. The larger pieces that you start off with, the quicker you're going to finish this project. If you start with tiny little pieces like this, it's going to take you forever to cover a whole book. So here we go. I'm just going to cover this whole thing with glue. Usually I wouldn't do it directly on the catalog so that I have all this glue everywhere. It becomes really messy, but I want to stay in frames, so here we go. When you get to gluing that part there in the middle, you want to get into those grooves. And those grooves are going to get larger and larger as you keep going with your project. See what I mean? You want to get in there, because otherwise that paper's going to rip. And I want to show you what I mean about grooves. You see how the more paper you're sticking in there, the deeper these grooves get. You will, once you start doing the project, you'll know exactly what I mean. So that's the middle parts. I want to talk about the edges next. What I prefer to do with all of the edges is have them wrapped. Rather than gluing my pieces kind of coming close to the edge like this, I want all of the edges or most of the edges wrapped. You can see all of the edges are wrapped with paper. It feels like I could explain this whole video in 3 sentences, but there's all these little details that are quite important to the integrity of the final project. You don't want to put all of this work into something and then not be happy with it. All right, so you can see what I've done over here. And I'm just gonna cut that piece off and then wrap the edge. And let me show you up close. You have this beautiful corner and beautiful edge wrapped completely. And because we're using water-based glue, there's going to be lots of warping, and it's one thing you don't have to worry about in this project, because when you have warping on one side and then you glue stuff on the other side and everything warps, you lay it under something heavy and it's beautiful. Still a little bit of warping, but you know, the pages, see that the pages are still quite flat once the project is finished. I like to have ripped edges. I have some of these book pages that I've added watercolor to, and once again I'm going to be wrapping that edge. And here we go, so wrapping the edge, and that's what's giving me sturdiness on the edges, and this is what's giving me sturdiness here in the middle. And each piece that I'm putting into here, a fold where the pages open and close, I try and do the groove first, and then I glue the rest down. I might use the help of my bone folder, and also I like to close the book and open it straight back up. And that way it's going to dry in that position. I'm going to come back to this, but I think it's important here to mention that when I'm creating these, I don't go and cover this whole page and then cover this whole page. I generally like to do a little bit of work here, and then I might actually go somewhere to the back, and then I'm gonna go somewhere to the middle. So that way you are constantly balancing the book. If you do all of the gluing at the front, you are going to end up with this warped spine here and then nothing here. So it's going to be completely unbalanced. If I wasn't filming a tutorial, I wouldn't be doing all of this on one page. I'll be adding a little bit of something on every page. Here I have used very thick cardstock, so I didn't actually wrap this page. I just kind of glued it down here. And then when I'm working on this page, I'm gonna, whatever piece I'm gonna use here, I will wrap that back up over this piece. This is one of those projects that you wanna really take your time with. Enjoy, not rush. Doesn't have to be finished all in one sitting. And really, it depends on the number of pages that you want to use. Even if you wanted to do it all in one go, you probably wouldn't be able to, because it does take quite a bit of time. So you can see here, so far, my whole page is done. This one here, it's completely finished. And I'm gonna do this side as well. So if you have 18 leaves in your book, that means you have 36 sides. And I've only done one. And you have to do 36. That's what I mean. It takes time. And if you ever made masterboards before, you'll know how long it takes. We're always looking of ways to use up scraps and things like that. So this is a perfect project for that. Here is that corner again. I like to have nice, neat corners. And then when I'm working on this page, you know, that's covered like that with whatever piece I'm using, and everything is nice and neat. And you can see all of this warping. I will avoid warping on my projects at all costs. But for this project, because I know how it actually turns out when it's done, and when both sides are collaged, it doesn't bother me at all because it's nice and flat when everything is finished. So you might have noticed that so far I prefer not to have any straight edges. So when I have straight edges like this, I like to cover them up, and I want my final piece that I know is no longer going to be covered up by anything else to be with a ripped edge. This particular piece here I'm leaving because I like the numbers in the holes, so that has a straight edge there, and that's okay with me. But the rest of the pieces, like this one here, there's only this little piece of catalogue left for me to cover, so that straight edge is going to be covered completely. But let's look at this one. I did this, like I said before, 7-8 years ago, and I wasn't at all particular about that sort of stuff. So you can see a whole lot of straight edges here, and it was probably much easier because I was gluing a whole page down. Just glue it down, no ripping the edges and no inking the edges. You can see here straight edges all around, and it still looks okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that my tastes have changed a little bit since making this one. This can totally be one of those projects that's ongoing. Once you get, you know, lots of tiny little scraps from other projects, you come in here, you glue them down. So it will take however long it will take. And there we go. So I still have straight edges. You know, it's not like all my edges have to be ripped, but anyway. And here we go. So that's one whole spread done. I have covered every single little millimeter of that catalogue underneath, or the catalogue page. And I would now probably, I'm going to leave this to dry. I might leave it open because there's glue kind of, you know, I don't want things to be gluing to each other, but I make sure before I leave it to dry open, I make sure to fold down those folds, right? To make sure that that fold is in there. I suppose you could go in and apply masking tape to all of the, I can't think, I forgot what these creases here are called. I don't know, you could, I guess, put some masking tape there and then work from, but this is just how I prefer to do it. I don't want to have bulky pieces of the exact same size in one spot. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, this is how I do it. You might want to choose paper that's all in one tone. This might be too busy. You know, if you want to paint something on here, if you want to use it as an art journal, it might feel too busy for you. So in that case, I would use simple tones of paper, maybe no pictures and busy things like this. Another thing you could also do is, once this is all complete, you just do a very thin layer of gesso. That's what a lot of art journalists do. Cover their page with gesso, and so you can still see this beauty sort of peeking out from underneath, but it's not so overpowering. So to recap the gluing process, you want to fully cover these folds where the book opens and closes, and you want to do that on all of the pages. You want to do a little bit of work on all of the pages rather than completing one spread and then going to the next page and then doing the whole thing. So best to balance your book, perhaps do a little bit at the front and then go to the back, do something there, come back to the front, and then do it that way. And also, and final, it's important to wrap the edges of your paper. That way there's going to be no lifting, and also that edge is going to be strong and sturdy. The more the layers of paper you have, the thicker the final page, I guess. When I did my masterboard, after gluing all of the pieces of paper down that you can see here, I went ahead and I added little embellishments here and there, you know, postage stamps and a little bit of sewing and images and that sort of stuff. With this type of thing, I don't do any of that because the plan is to use this as an art journal. So theoretically, when you have this ready to go, you come in and that's when you add the little details. So you can use it, for example, you might have these blank spaces, you can use that for journaling, and then the other places you can put embellishments down. It can be your idea book where you put in the ideas that you see other people make on YouTube. For example, a few videos ago I made these paper flowers that you use strips of paper to pleat the flowers, right? And I popped it down here. So when you see something like that, you see a tutorial, make one during the tutorial, and then you can have one place where you put all of your ideas And so you always have ideas on hand and a book full of treasures that you can come to and get inspiration from. A lot of the things that I have in my art journal were either my projects that I did, or I remember clearly I did a tutorial. I watched a tutorial of drawing these flowers. It was that long ago. I don't even remember who it was. Look at this beautiful texture. Drawing these flowers and then cutting them out. I have no idea. I don't remember anymore whose tutorial I watched. But then, you know, I clip little things in, and I don't come in here very often because I'm not very good at art journaling. That's just my personal thing. But just making little things like this and having little fun treasures in there, it's just nice to come in sometimes. I might have a little piece of some type of a lace and I don't know what to do with it, and I come in here and I glue it down. This was also a tutorial that I did. Maybe I'll link it down below if you want to see those flowers. This is a tutorial I did on alphabet letters. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, when I have these little things that I'm not sure where to put on. This is a tutorial I did on hand stitching on cardstock. I made this little house. And, you know, when I'm not sure what am I going to do with it, I kind of come in here and pop it down. This is from a tissue box. I made a pocket, so I'm going to put stuff in there. And like I said, I've had this for years and years, and I have no expectations of myself to finish this quickly or to fill it up quickly. You know, I might not touch this for a full year, and then I'm going to come in one day and make a little thing and glue it down. Or I see an image, I loved this image, and I thought, you know, I'm going to hold on to it, glue it down, and then here I have a little flower that I made that's glued down under this image. This is back in the coloring, you know, craze. Everyone was, maybe people still are, using these coloring books for stress relief, and one day I did that too, and then I cut out the little dolphins and glued them here. It's just a nice reminder of that day. So that's how I kind of use this book. But for this I had an idea to finish this off, and then I might even use it, instead of using it as an art journal, I might use this as I will use the masterboard. So why not? I might come into here and cut pieces out. It's just a nice way of displaying a masterboard, I guess, you know. And then this one, I think because it's a smaller size, I might use this one as an art journal. No expectations, I can do whatever I want. I just need to finish the front and back. So what do you think? Are you feeling inspired to make something like this? I've been wanting to do this tutorial for ages and ages because I just really enjoy this concept, and it's a good way to make something beautiful, but it's also a good way of using up all of those little pieces of paper that we generate in our projects. And you know, we're always on the hunt on new things that we can make with them, and there's just so many ideas and things that we can make with leftovers. But I think this is simply just another good idea. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.